those who don't know me, my name is Megan, she, her, hers, with Tampa Bay Activist Network, and I'm excited to be here as we review the April 1st City Council meeting.
And I'm Tori with the Black Collective Movement of Tampa, she, her, hers. April 1st is the day we know as April Fool's Day, and I tell you, the only joke pulled on us was watching that meeting. It had to be the most boring meeting ever, but we watched it so you don't have to. So make it worth it for us by going ahead and clicking the subscribe button to make sure that you are always notified about what's happening in Tampa.
Yeah, I have to agree, Tori. It was pretty mundane. They spent nearly an hour talking about offense. What? Anyway, before we get into the meeting, we also want to report on some community incidents going on. What we're going to talk about in a moment is a little heavy, especially for our viewers who are non-men and for many queer men too. So make sure you prioritize your emotional care as we're going to be talking about stalking.
A very brave woman living right here in Tampa took to the popular social media app TikTok to express concern and how she was being treated when it came to reporting a stalker. As you may know, women and other non-men in this country have to fight to be believed. Stalking is a very serious form of abuse and violence and is often used to manipulate, control, and/or punish non-men, and sometimes men as well, often with the stalker being someone well known to the victim.
According to the Bureau of Justice's statistics, 14 in every 1,000 adults were a victim of some form of stalking, and 46% of stalking victims indicate at least one unwanted contact per week. Fear is one of the biggest psychological impacts of stalking, with 46% of victims reporting a fear of not knowing what's going to happen next. On this show, we've been pretty vocal about defunding the police and refunding the community. But you might be asking, wait, if the stalking statistics are so bad, should we defund the police? Won't police be needed to stop the violence?
Well, police already exist, and these are the statistics. They're awful. Let's tune in to what happened here in Tampa when a stalking case was reported to Dugan and the Tampa Police Department. The videos you're about to see come from the article located in the Daily Dot. Although the article names the victim, we presume with consent, we won't do that here since we haven't spoken to the victim for that same consent.
I'm calling the police if you don't leave. I'm calling them right now.
Alright, you leave a call them. We're gonna leave this. I was looking for Courtney, I'm a neighbor.
He came around the corner. It wasn't like he followed you up here. It's like he came from somewhere and came around the corner at you. It's not like we're stalking. It's not following, because she didn't see him the whole way up here. She didn't see him the whole walk up here, and he just comes out and said, hey, it wasn't, if he did come out by grabbing her, he just walks up to her and goes, hey, Courtney, is Courtney here? That thing. I'm just trying to get to the aspect of the criminality of this is what I'm trying to, that's all I'm saying. Because if he would have grabbed you, that would have been a different story. He walks up. It's just like if your old friend out of nowhere from years ago walks up on you, and it may be a creepy guy that you knew back then. The intent was he may be intoxicated, but the intent was to talk to you. It wasn't like he grabbed her to say, hey,
oh, no,
and
he was
force his
looking
way
for
in.
me, and that's why I'm freaked the fuck out. Because I don't know who this is. And everybody in this complex knows who.
That is absolutely terrifying. Wow, if the victim is watching this, please know that you are seen. The People's Safety Coalition is here for you the best way that we can be. Know that you are brave and you deserve to be safe. I want to just say, I can't even find the words. Tori, is it possible I heard the Tampa police incorrectly?
I'd love to lie to you, honestly, Megan, but we have to say the truth. Officer Furby, as he's identified by the victim in the video, literally says, and I quote, if he grabbed you, that would have been a different story. Now tell me this. Does that make you feel safe?
That's so horrific. Imagine being a victim of something so awful, only to be dismissed by the supposed serve and protect department that we all pay for. For non-men, and most especially non-men of color and or trans folks, this is our reality. The dialogue gets even more startling from an unnamed officer.
Money at 1 a.m. is hiding in my bushes, jumps out at her, my roommate scares the fuck out of her, scares us so much we're out of work
if
for
you're
a
going to
week.
keep yelling.
No, I'm saying like, no,
don't
this is
defend yourself.
unacceptable.
It's okay. Can we get a different officer here, please?
No, it doesn't matter.
Call the police again and ask her to
No,
officer.
if you do, you're going to jail.
I'm going to jail for
No,
what?
because you're
I'm going to
screaming
jail for
at me.
what? Oh,
and you're
I'm
waking
sorry.
up the neighbors. You're causing a disturbance.
Because my neighbors
well,
are on
I
my
care.
side.
No,
and we're all scared.
No,
because there's this
they're
guy
not.
that's, yes, they are, because they're my neighbors and I talk to
We're
them.
trying to talk to you. I'm trying to discuss with you, and you're yelling.
No, you're
like
accusing me
no,
of why would this happen to you? Why do you think this happens to you?
How did I accuse
Happens to
you?
me? Because
I'm
you
the
said, why is this
police.
happening?
I might ask questions. That's what we do. We're the police. We ask questions.
No, I get that.
And when
you
we
guys
interview,
treated
no,
me
you don't get
terribly.
that.
This isn't an isolated incident, unfortunately. According to research by Harold James Geisman, the first anti-stalking law wasn't even passed in the United States until 1990. Yes, 1990. In the same study, we learned that only about half of stalking incidents are reported to the police. This trend is quite common, with people having less faith in the policing system. Folks feel it isn't helpful and perhaps sometimes may even be harmful to those involved. After watching what happened to this victim in Tampa, I can't say I blame anyone for feeling that way.
In fact, the study shows that 98% of women did not report stalking to the police because they didn't feel that the police would believe them. I wonder where they get that impression from.
It's not like we're stalking. It's not following.
You may be asking yourself, well, what does this have to do with City Council Watch? The answer is everything. We've said it and we'll say it a million more times. Our 7 leaders voted unanimously last September to increase the already ballooned TPD budget by $13 million. This is what our city council paid for. Police to respond to a woman in distress and threaten to arrest her. That is what we paid for.
We already know policing doesn't work. It seldom yields long-lasting results, and that's especially true when the victim is trans and/or of color. Ask Mayor Castor what she plans to do about that response. Ask each city council member what they plan to do about this and how they plan to protect all Tampa residents from violence, because more policing is not the solution.
We really have to imagine something better. The current system doesn't offer public safety, and hot take, it wasn't designed to. We can't fix the system because it's operating exactly as it was intended. We have to come up with something better, and we need to do it soon. I guess now, though, it's a good segue into another important topic that we feel that you all need to know about. And before I get into it, though, have I mentioned on this show yet that last year, all 7 city council members voted in favor of increasing the police budget by $13 million? Did I mention that? Oh, I haven't. Okay. Just wanted to make sure everyone knows, so it's clear.
Last year, we saw a community uprising in response to the horrible, preventable murder of George Floyd. The people said enough is enough. Black Tampa is tired of the abuse. Despite the fact that hundreds upon hundreds of people spoke out against the department and made demands of defunding the police and refunding the community, the city council did the exact opposite. If you watch our first episode, you'll see a recap of the uprising and the horrible abuse toward the community they serve and protect. One of the many complaints was the usage of excessive force, including rubber bullets and tear gas toward protesters. We heard many people make public comment at the Citizen Review Board last summer about the abuse they either faced or witnessed.
According to News Channel 8, Army Reservist Jordan Corey, 25 years old, has filed a lawsuit against the Tampa Police Department due to injuries he sustained while protesting injustice on May 30th of last year. Although Corey is white, it's important to note that this only happened because he was at a protest for Black lives. And we can only imagine how many Black Tampa residents were injured that simply do not have the means to file a lawsuit. We hope Corey gets healing and hopefully at least financial compensation, but as history shows, lawsuits against police departments are often very long, drawn-out processes and seldom seem to bring any real long-term justice. For example, the families of Andrew Joseph III, Arthur Green Jr., and Jason Westcott still have pending lawsuits against Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office and the Tampa Police Department, stemming from murders committed by police back in 2014. We don't say this to discourage lawsuits. By all means, if you are able, sue the blue, okay? But we have to be realistic about the systems that we're up against.
So what do our city council members have to do with that? Again, everything. They'll tell you things like, oh, it's out of their control. They'll blame the mayor, saying she's the one in charge of police. And that is true. Tampa has what is known as a strong mayor. That means she really is the head of the police, with Chief Dugan reporting directly to her. While that's fine, City Council isn't innocent or powerless. They absolutely could control the budget, and they can make public statements. They can challenge the mayor. In fact, their literal existence is to serve as a check and balance on the mayor. So yes, as far as we're concerned, they're all accountable for this. All of them.
Before we go onward to the city council meeting itself, which we promise you there wasn't much to report on, let's talk about an article circulating Britain by city council member Louis Vieira on the subject of public safety. The Tampa Bay Times published an article by council member Vieira on April 2nd discussing his ideas for a public safety master plan. One of the proposals he makes is an annual audit for safety of both the Tampa Fire Department and the Tampa Police Department. Which is fine, I guess, but what are the metrics for safety, and whose safety will these audits prioritize? I think you and I both know.
Right. In addition, Vera speaks about the problem with the fire rescue being overburdened and under-resourced. He later goes on to talk about 21st century style policing and the need to have good response times. But why, council member? You saw earlier in the episode how they respond to women going through active violence. We want to invest more money into dismissing victims? Councilmember Vieira, what if, and listen closely, what if you did what the people said and invested in a program like Cahoots, which is what we all asked for? Cahoots does not work with the police 98% of the time, only relying on the policing system 2% of the time. Since 1989, they've diffused so many crises and have had 0 deaths of any staff or member of the public. So why aren't we investing in that? It makes no sense to me. Why don't you call Councilmember Vieira and ask?
Okay, we've covered a lot of things going on in our city. Now let's talk about the meeting. One thing I want to talk about is item number 38 from frustrated homeowners in Seminole Heights. The homeowners had petitioned so they could install a fence due to what they say is a constant situation of people coming on their property or something like that. I really fell asleep at this part. They literally talked about a fence for an hour. The homeowner made complaints about, and using his words here, bums and homeless people being on their property. Well, you can put up a fence for sure, but I'll tell you the solution lies in changing how our society is organized. We need to make sure that every human is cared for and that we have real solutions to drug and alcohol problems plaguing poor communities in Tampa. I don't know, a non-punitive treatment maybe, something that's like attainable housing for all, investments in the community, things like that. But I don't know, maybe I'm just pulling stuff out of my...
I think you're right, but our city council members aren't too keen on actually solving problems. One thing I wanted to point out was item number 46. It brought a ton of South Tampans to make public comment. I couldn't help but notice city council was really at attention with the South Tampans when they were speaking. I really didn't see as much reading newspapers or reports as I do when we make public comment. What could be different about us and the commenters from South Tampa? Any ideas? You know, Tori, one thing I really like is when people come together and they put their money toward making the world better for those who are vulnerable and suffering. This is why it's important to talk about item number 5, an opportunity to see our leaders being philanthropic, kind, and supportive for those who are hurting.
Yes, like you, I was thrilled to see our leaders finally do something for the people. Oh, wait. I see they just accepted a donation of just under $30,000. I wonder what that could be for. Maybe rent for people displaced by COVID. Oh, I know. They're going to support small businesses that have closed during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Or, okay, no, not that. Maybe they're donating to families impacted by violence from the state, maybe?
Well, those are good guesses, but no, they're actually lying. They aren't
That's great.
They aren't supporting the vulnerable. Instead, our city leaders accepted a donation from a group known as Rise Tampa, our police foundation. Rise Tampa is a registered not-for-profit that, from what we understand, donates equipment to our already overfunded and over-militarized police department.
So you mean to tell me that a non-profit charity exists to give TPD, stuff. What the hell is that? So who is the Rise Police Foundation anyway? Let's figure it out.
Yeah, so the People Safety Coalition actually learned about this group last year in the throes of the Refund the Community movement. Our city leaders told us not to worry. They only had to increase TPD's budget last year by $13 million to cover pensions and salaries. Not to worry, they said. None of the money's going into militarized equipment or surveillance. I guess they didn't lie. None of the $13 million is going into that because they have a backdoor workaround.
It's honestly appalling and disgusting. The police department is the highest funded department in our city. Why do they need donations from a third party? I wonder if there are any organizations that can donate to the housing fund or the county healthcare fund. If not, why not take these donations and place it there? And look at their mission.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. Instead of helping the vulnerable, Rise and its donors help oppress the vulnerable. Imagine that.
Wow, so it gets grosser and grosser. According to Rise's tax return filed in 2019 for the fiscal year of 2018, Rise Foundation received over $181,000 in revenue, a mix of donations, grants, and what have you, according to the Florida Commission of the Status of Women. Rise Foundation was created by former police chief, catch this, Jane Castor, who now serves as your mayor. So you're telling me that she decided to create a backdoor way to funnel more money into her over-ballooned department? That should be shocking, but it's not.
Yeah, in our research, we also noticed Mayor Castor is currently a sitting board member at Grace Point. Why is that relevant? Well, as you may recall, one of the many demands of the people during budget season last year was to refund the community, and we wanted the Cahoots program. We did. And Councilmember Dingfelder did motion for a $1 million line item for mental health, and as far as we know, that money is being invested in creating a co-relationship between mental health organizations and TPD, in which cops and mental health practitioners will respond together. A completely terrible idea and in opposition to our demand. Well, Grace Point is one of the main mental health organizations that's going to work with TPD. And the mayor being on the board, even if she recused herself from those decisions, goes to show the truth of what's going on behind the scenes.
So if Mayor Jane Castor loves cops so much, why doesn't she step down from her position as mayor and just become one again? I mean, really, I wouldn't shed a single tear if she was to stop being mayor tomorrow or right now. In fact, I would even help her pack her bags, clean her desk up. Like, girl, what do you need? Let's get you out of here quickly.
All of our 7 city council members voted in support of the donation to TPD from Rise. It was nearly $30,000 worth of equipment, 9 helicopter flight helmets. So TPD is basically investing in more aviation-related surveillance because of course they are. I guess it's easier for them to see the blue tarps over the neglected East Tampa homes from the air so that they know what neighborhoods to target.
And as it has come out, aviation-related surveillance has been a major problem. In 2019, all 7 city council members voted in support of approving over $100,000 in drones. Throughout the 2020 protests, community activists reported being surveillanced by helicopters. We literally live in a police state and no one is doing anything to stop it.
Exactly. And I know you fell asleep during this meeting, but take a wild guess which one of our city leaders put in the initial motion to approve this donation.
It couldn't have been Citro. It wouldn't have been Citro. There's no way it could have been. It was Citro, wasn't it? And that's why Citro gotta go. I'm over it.
It honestly gets so tiring, but it's never gonna stop until the people make these folks feel the fire. They work for you. Call Citro. He's citywide. No matter what part of Tampa you're in, he answers to you. When you can, make a public comment at City Council. It doesn't even need to be on an agenda item. Just speak your truth. Defund the police, refund the community, and listen to the people, and most especially the Black and Indigenous communities in Tampa. Listen to all of us, not just the ones who make you feel nice at the table. Our city leaders are lying to all of us. They do have the power to make a difference, but they won't. because that's not where their interests lie.
Sounds like we need to make them interested. In 2023, all 7 seats and the mayor are up for election. If you're even flirting with the idea of running on a people-powered campaign, get with us. Email us at peoplesafetycoalition@gmail.com and discuss your ideas. You can also join our organization and a membership ambassador or reach out to you and welcome you to the team. Everyone with the intent to grow and fight against oppression is welcome. Even if you've never done any community organizing work before, you have to start somewhere, so might as well start with us. Don't forget to subscribe, share this video, like, comment, share, save, add, subtract, divide. I'm Tori with the Black Collective Movement of Tampa. See y'all next time.
Yes, indeed. Thank you all for watching and engaging. I'm Megan, she, her, hers, Tampa Bay Activist Network, and I'm out. Stick with us for another edition of Frontline Activist Message.
All of the helicopters started when the Tampa Bay Times wrote an article about my protest group that I started during Black Lives Matter. That same night, I shared a story about how law enforcement used to use helicopters on activists as psychological warfare to fuck with their sleep cycles. The helicopters started that exact night, and they've been back to my house on maybe 50 occasions. It's the most terrifying experience of my life.
All right, everyone, my name is Angel D'Angelo, pronouns he, him, and I'm with the Restorative Justice Coalition, here to moderate another episode of Frontline Activist Message. I have 2 guests with me from the community. If you don't mind introducing yourselves, starting with Kieran.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kieran. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm also with the Restorative Justice Coalition. I'm also with Dream Defenders. So there's a lot of stuff to do. So if you want to get involved, come on in.
And Sam.
Hi, my name is Sam Ronan. I run a volunteer organization called Tampa Bay for Change, and I now run an organization called Florida for Change, and friend of Dream Defenders, friend of Restorative Justice, and anyone who needs help.
All right, awesome. So I'm so glad you both are here for us today. We're going to talk about a few issues that were brought up throughout the week, as well as in City Council. I think the first thing that's going to really draw our attention is something that's really near and dear to our hearts and all the work we do in Tampa, which has been around refunding the community and making the community actually safe. We know from our research independently that public safety does not come from more policing, it actually comes from more resources. But City Council has yet to hear us yet. So the first thing I want to bring up is at the City Council meeting, once again, unanimously, they voted to give TPD more resources. Now, this is after last year, they unanimously voted an additional $13 million on top of their already over ballooned budget, saying, oh, well, we can't reduce it because pensions and salaries have already been agreed upon by the union, so we can't reduce it, but don't worry. It's just going to salaries and pensions. It's not going to any more militarization. Great. So since January has happened and we're in this new year, they've approved a number of grants, a number of budget increases, and now just recently, an organization known as Rise Tampa, our police foundation, has donated almost $30,000 worth of helicopter helmets to TPD, giving them equipment directly as a nonprofit, a charity gave to TPD. I should mention that Rise Florida was founded by Mayor Jane Castor, I think back in 2015, before she was mayor. Now, aside from the fact that there's already the budget issue and concerns and over balloon budget, just before the City Council meeting on April 1st, there was news articles about helicopter surveillance and more violence by police. So I just want to kind of talk a little bit about why is it problematic for this charity to exist and donate more equipment to TPD, and what could we have possibly put a $30,000 donation to instead? If you want to just dive into that a little bit, Kieran.
Yeah, when I found out that there's a separate foundation that donates to the TPD, I was floored, because I'm just kind of like, well, aren't there funding? Isn't there funding supposed to come from a governmental agency? Though I could understand if there's a foundation that donates things for community type charitable, if you want to call it that, causes, but for an organization to be donating funds for like equipment, that just doesn't even really make sense to me. So that's definitely something that I found interesting. As for your other question, what could we have put that into? What can we not have put that into? You know, rent assistance, meal programs, bills. You know, people do still have utility bills that they need to pay, especially for kids that are doing school from home. You need your internet connection. Internet's not free. So there's so many things that could have gone towards community help with $30,000. There's a lot that can be done with that.
Sam?
God, well, I actually crunched the numbers based on what they were spending and then based on what the helmets cost. And what's really offensive, I mean, the entire thing is egregious. It's 10 helmets. It's 10 helmets. It's $30,000 for 10 helmets. And the helmets are essentially just extra tech involved, and there's going to be stuff on the screen so they can feel like Master Chief from Halo or something. It really feels more like cosplay than any pressing need. The excuse was that they're worried that if they don't have this tech that they're going to be crashing more, and there's going to be all these emergencies. I don't know about you. I haven't heard about TPD helicopters falling from the sky or being shot down. I think they're good without military technology. And again, it's 10 helmets. And she said, what couldn't you spend that on? I mean, I know that we have a new community fridge program that just started up in Tampa. Imagine if the city invested in something like that. I mean, that's affordable. You could probably get a lot of bang for your buck for $30,000. Affordable housing, helping people pay off their bills. It's offensive. It's wrong.
Yeah, and I think too, on the heels of a global pandemic where we've seen so many businesses struggling to where they have to bring in employees to work during a pandemic to serve customers at maximum capacity, or they're shutting down, it's just another slap in the face. Also, the fact that the housing development program is so severely underfunded that their housing development manager on their exit, celebration said, please put more funding into the housing program. And they all sat up there and said, oh, we wish there was more we could do. But yet there's this backdoor foundation donating directly to TPD. And I think what's extra alarming too is we've heard stories about surveillance, and we've heard communities, especially Black and Brown communities, feeling particularly vulnerable to that surveillance. Other than surveillance, what public safety element could helicopters bring to the community? I mean, in theory, I guess they talk about how they can catch speeding and things like that. But when you're thinking about all the issues going on in Tampa, if you had to think of one thing that might make us all safer in the city, and you had to choose between helicopters and that, what do you think would ultimately make us all safer? If you want to start with that, Sam.
Sure. Making people safer and using the money instead. I'd love to see more sidewalks. I'd love to see them redesign how Tampa looks and feels for pedestrians. There'll probably be less accidents and be less things for helicopters to see.
Right. And Kieran?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely a big factor in people's safety, because the Tampa Bay area on a whole has, some of the worst fatality rates for pedestrians and cyclists. And a lot of that has to do with lack of adequate facilities and infrastructure. So there's so many things that can be done to make, something even as simple as street lighting can make things safer for people to be seen. Because, if you can't see somebody at night, that's going to be an issue. So yeah, there's so many things in terms of their infrastructure that can be done to improve safety.
Yeah, and I think, we can't decide what individual people decide to donate their money to, but I'm just like, who's donating money to put into this program to then later backdoor donate it to TPD? Like, if I have money to separate from myself, I want to give it to somebody in need, not an over ballooned militarized department. They're literally funding oppression. It's wild. The one other thing that has really been brought up is just the tragic amount of violence that occurred last year towards many of us that were protesting for our rights. And we're not even going to go into HB1 because that's a federal issue. State level issue. So that doesn't even have to do with city council, but I'm sure that they're thrilled to death that it's prospectively going to pass to suppress our free speech. The violence that a lot of people faced, especially Black and Indigenous people last year, people hit by cars, rubber bullets, irritants, pepper spray, all the things that were happening at the hands of the Tampa Police Department. They were not only rewarded with more funding, there was never any discipline for any of that, even though Dugan was shown to have caused an increase of use of force since he's taken over the role. Recently, we saw in the news a a Tampa resident that is a veteran has suffered a severe brain injury as a result of rubber bullets going against him from our TPD that we pay. So to put that in other words, we paid a department to injure a veteran. So for a country that supports our troops, and we have people like Councilmember Citro that says he will always back law enforcement. We have people like Councilmember Vieira that says we don't need to defund the police. What does that say about how he feels about our veterans? And then when we look about this lawsuit that's going on against TPD as a result, this is only one person that was able to secure an attorney. What does this say for all the people that were probably injured that either don't know how to navigate the legal system or don't have access to the legal system for whatever reason? Maybe they're undocumented, maybe they're afraid of it, maybe they don't speak enough English to understand what's going on. That being said, what are your thoughts about the severe amount of force TPD is using? And how do you feel City Council, even though they technically, as they will tell us over and over, they don't run TPD, it's on the mayor. How do you feel their complicity and decision to continue to fund TPD over and over exacerbates this issue, Karen?
Well, I mean, the more funding, the more they're able to do the foolery, I guess I'll refer to it for now, because that literally just gives them more money to buy more munitions, because yeah, there's the one person that's receiving the attention media wise because they're a veteran, because it was a very sustained, terrible injury that they've suffered. But the three of us here know people otherwise that were harmed by some of these things. I remember a couple of people had gotten like skin burns and things from the canisters hitting them or the rubber bullets hitting them. So to see that they're giving the police more funding for it, I think it unfortunately is coming from a place of fear and anxiety, because they're like, oh, we can't have these people doing stuff like this in the streets, so to speak. And especially the champs that got burned down, which there's still quite a bit of speculation that it might have been agent provocateurs that were part of that. So things like that unfortunately happen, and that then gives them their reason for why they're increasing the funding to use force like that against people. And like you said, we're not going to talk about HB1. Well, it's now SB 484 because it is now in the Senate,
right?
Because that is a statewide issue. But on a local level, we're not going to see it. But I would like to have seen more local officials speaking out against that, which we have seen some, but not a lot of widespread opposition, unfortunately.
That's a good point. I just want to say, now that you said that, Commissioner Kim Overman did make a statement against it. I have yet personally, I'm just saying I personally haven't seen any member of City Council speak against it.
No.
I don't want to take time on that. So Sam, to the original question.
Sure. Well, first of all, I mean, if we're talking about excessive force, I was there the day that this man was shot in the head. Fortunately, not close enough to have been shot myself. I was away from that, but I was, I guess you could call it running triage. I was in a parking lot and getting all the kids who were suddenly running back. They were getting shot. They were being gassed, and I was trying to take care of them as best as I could. And I do remember the air was carrying tear gas. It's designed so it can be, carried along the winds. And of course, we're right by the water. And I stopped being able to breathe just from like a little whiff of it. People around me stopped being able to breathe. I have had double pneumonia before in both of my lungs. So I know what that feeling's like. And I couldn't imagine someone with asthma or any kind of respiratory issue being exposed to that, let alone the fact, considering we're in a pandemic. We're in a pandemic with a virus that has respiratory qualities. I mean, the tear gas alone could easily kill people. None of these non-lethal weapons, it's so intelligence insulting that we even call them non-lethal. And I frankly think that we should just stop, because they're weapons. They're just weapons. And none of these things are being used properly. And even when they're used properly, they can still kill people.
Exactly.
Yeah. In terms of what City Council could be doing, I mean, Joe Citro, if I have him right, I would never want to misquote Joe Citro, but I believe it was something like, you know what? I think they should have more money. when pressed by Restorative Justice Coalition on the topic of defunding the police, he specifically said, no, I think they need to have more money. I can't really speak for some of the others. I think that it's more of an issue of not speaking out on the issue, but Joe, Joe could have kept quiet, and instead he had to make sure that we knew that he had a reprehensible take on this issue.
Absolutely.
And to my knowledge, I don't think any of them have spoken out on HB1. I do want to mention that it's Ben Crawford, who is the lawyer who has been taking this case and is asking other people to contact him to join in on this lawsuit if you've been affected by TPD violence.
Wonderful. Ben Crawford. So yeah, definitely any viewers here, if you know someone, refer them, or if it was you, it doesn't hurt to at least get that consultation. So before we head out here, it's just amazing, I think, to all of us to think about what's going on in our city level. And we're really hoping people get more jazzed up about local elections. The presidency is important. Don't get us wrong.
Local isn't sexy.
So we gotta make it sexy. I mean, look at us. Look at the three of us. Like, come on. So, we've got people here. So join the Tampa Bay for Change group, learn about the Florida for Change PAC. If you've ever even dreamed, like you just thought about it, one of your friends is like, oh, you should run for office, anything like that, get in touch with the People Safety Coalition or Restorative Justice Coalition, Dream Defenders, somebody, and say, I want to run for office. We have till 2023. We have got to get people in office who are in tune to the needs of the people. So we're going to go ahead and call it. So for the segment today, if the two of you just want to say your name one last time, Kieran.
My name is Karen. My pronouns are she, her, and join us.
And my name is Sam Ronan, he, him. Please join us, really.
All right, and I'm Angel D'Angelo, he, him, signing out.